Hello, Gatemen fans, and welcome into the Pregame Show here on the Gatemen Baseball Network. Alongside me is JD Raucci and Henrique DaMour. I'm Cameron Stuart, ushering you into Week 2 of the Cape League season, where the Gatemen will face off against the team they started Week 1 against. That's the Chatham Anglers as they come into Spillane Field tonight. They came off a doubleheader to the Gatemen on Sunday, which they split with the Orleans Firebirds. JD, what did we see in Game 1?
Well, Game 1 was the Austin Shenton show. Really, the entire day was the Austin Shenton show. You know, Wareham got off to a little bit of a rough start. Couldn't really find the bats. They had been struggling from that Harwich game, and it kind of trickled into that doubleheader against Orleans. The bats just really weren't getting it going. We're down 2. Heading into the bottom of the 9th inning, it looked like they were pretty much dead on arrival in the 9th, and then all of a sudden, you get a couple of base runners on, and Austin Shenton comes up huge, a walk-off home run for him. He's leading the league in average right now, above 470. He's had an incredible season, and he's really showing why he's on that full contract and why he is one of the best players in the Cape League. And, you know, also in that Game 1, we saw Andrew Vaughn struggle a little bit for the first time pretty much all season. Struggled against Harwich, then those struggles continued in Game 1. So it was good to see somebody like Shenton coming from the bottom of the lineup, making a big impact and kind of filling in that void where we have seen Andrew Vaughn really deliver in a lot of spots, but, you know, he can't have a fantastic night every night. He is human at some point. We thought it was a machine at the beginning of this season, but he is a human being. He does have some off games. He does have he can't have a couple of days where he's really not hitting that well, so it's good to see somebody like Austin Shenton, bottom of the lineup, come up big in a big spot, deliver a walk-off home run, and send Gatemen fans home happy at least for game number 1.
So Austin Shenton now finding himself in that bottom third of the lineup, top of the league in average. He provided the heroics, as JD said, in Game 1. It didn't really carry over, though, to Game 2, did it, Henrique?
No, Game 2 was tough. For a 7-inning game, it dragged on like a 9-inning one. The bullpen got into an unusual amount of trouble. Jared Horn struggled through the late innings, and a lot of free passes were given up, and the two-strike hitting on Orleans, or rather the two-strike pitching for Wareham, really wasn't that good. We had talked about it some, and how just a lot of pitches were left up in the zone with 2 strikes, and the pitch count went up because a lot of 2-2 counts, a lot of 3-2 counts were entered into by Gatemen pitchers, but weren't able to capitalize on them. One of the positives was that until about the 6th inning, the game was a back-and-forth affair. It was exciting, and Andrew Vaughn busted out of an 0-for-11 slump in a big way, hit a solo shot that clanged off the bleachers right behind us. I mean, he really got a hold of this thing, so it was good to see him to get some confidence back as well. And we saw some lineup changes as heading into today's game against Chatham. That JD kind of talked about how the bottom of the lineup looked a certain way. The top of the lineup's been shifted around a little bit. We're going to get that. We're going to get to that later on in the pregame show. But I think that Game 2 against Orleans, you got to flush it and move on. There's some new blood in the lineup, both on the offensive and pitching side of things. So I think that should help right the ship a little bit.
And one other thing about that Game 2, Henrique, is the fact that it was a bullpen day. Like Game 2 of a doubleheader it usually is. You weren't getting an actual starter on the mound. You saw Joey Matulovic in Game 1. He looked really good for the Gatemen. And then it was McKinley Moore from Arkansas Little Rock getting the start in Game 2. He didn't get off to a good start. Then the bullpen had to back him up, and it really never did. So when the bullpen starts a game, it leaves you a little bit short-handed in that bullpen. Makes things a little bit more difficult for them. They just didn't. We've seen them deliver most of the season. They just didn't follow through with that kind of promise that they've made to us that, hey, we're going to be one of the better bullpens in the league. That just didn't happen in Game 2. And at the end of the day, it was 7 games in 6 days. That's tough for anybody. It's tough for a bullpen staff that still wasn't completely full most of the week. A couple of late and midweek additions for the Gatemen. So really, I wouldn't be too concerned about the Game 2 loss, but there are some things to work on heading into heading into Chatham today.
It was a busy week for the Gatemen, culminating yesterday in their first off day of the season, allowing for some guys to recover. And it looks like Isaac Collins is going to be coming back for them, JD.
Isaac Collins got himself hurt in I think it was the Harwich game, fouled one off his knee, and it looked like, I saw him after the game, it looked like he had 2 knees. It was basically right here you saw the regular kneecap, and then up on his left thigh, there was a whole nother issue up here. Pretty much 2 knees. He was in some pain, couldn't really bend his knee, but now that he's had a couple of days off, didn't play in that Orleans doubleheader. Oliver Dunn got the start in both games, plus the off day yesterday, the league-wide off day, or pretty much league-wide off day, league-wide scheduled off day. He's now back and ready to go. He'll be batting second today, and he's been one of the better Gatemen batters this season. Hasn't seen as many at-bats as some of the other guys in the lineup, but he's still hitting 300 on the season, sees the ball well, has speed on the base paths. He's a guy that if he gets it going and gets on base and becomes a catalyst for this team, the Gatemen are going to benefit if he's in the lineup.
Off day yesterday, well-deserved for the Gatemen, who sit atop the Western Division still in the Cape Cod League. Today they welcome in the guys who are atop the Eastern Division as the Chatham Anglers come to Spillane Field for the first time. We're going to send it down to our sideline reporter, Mary Orders, who got a chance to talk to Coach Don Sneddon before the game.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with head coach Don Sneddon. Coach, we've talked a few times about the adjustment made to wooden bats. Are there any other major adjustments the players need to make from college ball to here?
Well, velocity. They face pitchers that throw 91, 92, maybe at the beginning, and then usually at that point relievers come in, they're 88. In the Cape, the relievers come in and may even throw harder than the starters did. So they got 9 innings. So velocity is a big key, especially with wooden bats, is that you don't have a big sweet spot. So you have to be exact on those. That's the real big difference. Balls don't really travel that much farther with aluminum bats. It's just the sweet spots more. So you can miss on the bat more and be successful than you can with wood. You miss on wood, you have a broken bat, or the ball doesn't go very far.
And how do you try to help them with that transition?
Well, we spend a lot of time in the cage. We talk about ways to get the bat head out and don't worry about other things. The key is the bat head, and there's some things you can do to make that happen. They have to learn to stride a little bit earlier, because if they're late, they just make foul balls and you miss your pitches. And at this level, if you miss your pitch, you may not get it again in that sequence, and then you're done.
You guys faced Chatham last week. What are some key takeaways from that game that you're going to try to apply to tonight's game?
Well, we try to do the same thing, but they have a whole different lineup, so we don't have any game plan for them. We got a good pitcher going with left-hander Wallachuk, and he pitches his game no matter who it is. So hopefully he just is on his game and knows how to change speeds, and we'll go after it.
And lastly, the Anglers lead the league in stolen bases. What are your players going to need to do to stop them on that base path?
Well, we got a left-hander with a pretty good move, so that'll do that. And the best thing to do is don't let them get on first. Then they can't steal. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach. After the break, we have more.
Baseball Factory, a proud partner of the Cape League since 1991, holds over 600 events nationwide for players in both high school and middle school, including 3 training weeks here in the Cape. Baseball Factory alumni have played on every Division I college program across the nation, with thousands drafted and more than 500 in the majors. Visit baseballfactory.com to learn how you can build your way to greatness. The Colossal Lobster Rolls are back at the 99 restaurants. Visit today in Centerville, Falmouth, Mashpee, Wareham, or Yarmouth for the best value for lobster rolls on the Cape. The 99, proud sponsor of the Cape Cod Baseball League.
Welcome back into the Gatemen pregame show. Thank you to Mary Orders for that report before the break. Got a couple of good starters on the mound for the Gatemen tonight as we head around the second time through the rotation. Ken Waldachuk gets the start tonight for the Gatemen, JD.
Yeah, and he looked really good in his first start of the season against Harwich early last week. The left-hander from St. Mary's had a fantastic season with the Gales, was an alternate on Team USA. The ERA was just a sliver over 2.0 earlier this season, with St. Mary's College out in California. He's a really great pitcher, and then in his first game of the season against Harwich, a pretty good Harwich team, he located his fastball well. He had a couple of strikeouts in only 4 innings, and it was a pitcher's duel between he and Henrique DeVito, the right-hander from Seton Hall and from Harwich, in that first matchup between Harwich and the Gatemen right here at Spillane Field. He looked really good in that game. I expect nothing but greatness from him, or nothing but maybe not greatness. Let's not put too much pressure on him, but nothing but good things from Ken Waldachuk tonight. If he gets off to a good start, starts mowing batters down for a pretty dangerous Chatham lineup, then this game is going to get going quickly, and he's going to give the Gatemen an opportunity to open up a lead. And I think that's one of the things that the Gatemen have done well this season is they've gotten really good starts from those pitchers. And when the pitchers pitch well, it gives that extra little bit of motivation to the lineup to say, hey, our pitcher's backing us up. Let's back him up. Let's get the bats going early, and let's score some runs early and often. And then even that takes a little bit more pressure off the pitcher, because if you're pitching with the lead, you can be a little bit more aggressive. You can be a little bit more free-flowing, and things start going well. So if Ken Waldachuk can do that tonight, he's going to have a really good night for the Gatemen.
Ken Waldachuk was great the first time out. The last time we saw him, Kyle Hurt for Chatham and USC, not a guy we've seen before. What do we expect from him tonight?
Not a guy we've seen before. He's had some control issues. He had a very okay year at USC his freshman year. An ERA just a shade over 4.7. A lot of strikeouts, not too many walks, but his batting average against was pretty low, 238. So the hard contact doesn't come very often, but when it does, it's been destructive for her. It's the second appearance in the Cape League so far. But I think the Gatemen batters they're good at this. There are guys like Andrew Vaughn come to mind. Isaac Collins, another guy who is a high walk, low strikeout kind of guy, which adds to his value on the base paths or just as on the offense in general. I think are going to have a great day against a guy like her, just being patient, exercising, discipline at the plate, working deep into counts, racking the pitch count up so that they can get into a Chatham bullpen. Because like you said, the offense is dangerous. So I think taking advantage of pitching early and often is going to be why the Gatemen win this game.
And speaking of guys we haven't seen before, 5 new Gatemen made their way onto the roster in the off day yesterday. 2 of them are in the starting lineup tonight for Wareham. What are we going to see from Jeremy Idens first off?
Well, Jeremy Idens, you're going to see a whole lot of offense from this kid. He had a great sophomore campaign at UCLA, batted .350, 6 home runs, 40 RBIs, 50 strikeouts, and 200 at-bats. That number is very average, not too many walks, only 20 walks. But he played in the Northwoods League last summer, so he's used to a wood bat league, and that season is a slog. It's 72 games compared to the Cape League's 44. But from my time in the Northwoods League, he torched our team. Anyway, Mr. Idens did. But at UCLA, they have a very disciplined program there in the Pac-12. The competitions he plays is very fantastic. So he had a 280 average his freshman year, was able to raise that to 350 his sophomore year. So clearly he's growing in a very tough conference. I think that speaks a lot to his character as a baseball player and his coachability. And Don Sneddon isn't picking guys just because. Idens is he's a fantastic player. He's slotting in at the leadoff spot tonight, bumping Skylar Hunter down to the second leadoff in the 9 hole, I should say. So that was part of the lineup changes that we saw. Isaac Collins will be batting second tonight, but it'll be good to have his presence, very solid contact bat at the top of the lineup.
So Jeremy Idens will be the igniter tonight for the Gatemen. Down in the middle of the lineup, though, a new designated hitter, the switch-hitting Lael Lockhart from the University of Houston. JD, what do you think we're going to see from him this summer?
Well, he's a two-way guy, so we might see a little bit of him in the bullpen, and we could also see him batting as he is tonight, the DH. He's going to replace Parker Phillips, who is the usual DH in that 5-hole. And I still think that this 3-4-5 punch, the Vaughn, Packard, used to be Phillips, now Lockhart 3-4-5 punch, is still one of the best in the league, even with Lockhart in the lineup. And Lockhart had a great season at Houston, a 294 average. He pitched pretty well. Saw him pitch in the regionals of the NCAA tournament. He looked really good in that game. So, he's got a lot of talent. He's going to be going into his junior season from Friendswood, Texas, and he's got a lot of really good characteristics. He's hardworking. He's built well, and plus he's a switch hitter. I really like having a switch guy in that middle part of the lineup. We've seen switch guys in Isaac Collins and Skylar Hunter at the top part of that lineup, but when you put them in the middle, then that gives you a little extra pop in the middle of the lineup because you can hit lefties, you can hit righties. We looked at his swing earlier in batting practice. I think he looked good from both sides. So I'm really excited to see what Lael Lockhart can do this season. Second team All-American Athletic Conference this season. So the Houston Cougar is definitely going to make an impact on the game today. We'll just see how much that impact is. But I'm excited to see what we get out of Lael Lockhart. He could really be a difference maker on this team.
So we're going to hear from Lael Lockhart in just a minute here with our second installment of Getting to Know the Gatemen this season. He got a chance to catch up with our Mary Orders before his Gatemen debut.
Thanks, guys. For this week's edition of Getting to Know the Gatemen, I'm here with tonight's designated hitter, Lael Lockhart. Now, Lael, you just got here yesterday. How have you liked the Cape so far?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Met the host family, great host family. Met the guys I'm living with. It's going to be a really good time.
Great. And have you been able to explore much or not really?
Not much. Just kind of got to the host family, passed out, woke up this morning.
Yeah, and you go to the University of Houston, and you're from Texas. What is your favorite food from home?
It's got to be barbecue, for sure, through and through.
What kind?
Brisket, for sure.
Okay. And what is your favorite TV show or a Netflix series?
$1 Million Listing New York.
Okay, why?
Just because, really, and just like looking at the apartments, really.
Would you ever want to be a real estate agent?
Oh, that's not my game.
And who is an MLB player you look up to and why?
I would say Dustin Pedroia because of his hustle, just on and off the field. He's a really, never comes off the field clean, so to say, and he's a really good dude.
And lastly, you're number 24, if I'm not mistaken, at school. Is there any particular reason for that number?
The guy before me last year, Corey Jolks, had the number and kind of looked at it as he took me under his wing the year before and took the number 24 just to kind of keep that gameplay and kind of that character going on to the next year.
Thanks so much, Lael. For this week's edition of Getting to Know the Gatemen, I'm Mary Orders. Stick around for more after the break.
Gatemen Baseball is officially sponsored by Robertson's GMC, the truck professionals. Located on Cranberry Highway in Wareham, Robertson's GMC, we are professional grade. Generations for life.
Welcome back into the Gatemen pregame show here on the Gatemen Baseball Network. About to wrap things up here. Chatham Anglers are in town. They're atop the Eastern Division of the Cape League and find themselves atop a bunch of statistical categories this season. Henrique, what are they doing so well so far this season?
On the offensive front, just about everything. And their team ERA as well, before I segue into the offense, their team ERA is second best in the league at a crisp 2.9, I believe. Either 2.5 or 2.9. But either way, it's very good. But the offense is what's scary. They've got 6 guys in this lineup that hit above 300, and 5 of those guys have played at least 6 games. So there's no statistical anomalies here. These guys are good at the plate. They have a league-leading 8 home runs, but the Gatemen have only given up 1 home run all year, so that could be a counter for them. Most stolen bases in the league, 12 of 15 on the year, and second most runs scored in the league, which Wareham has the third most at 34, Chatham with 35. Bottom line, they can do it all, so I think Waldechuk is going to have a tough task ahead of them.
And one of the things you mentioned there, league leaders in home runs, and that's got a lot to do with the nation's leader in home runs in college baseball this year, Arizona State's Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, Torkelson's a great hitter, power guy, wasn't super highly touted coming out of high school, but clearly he should have been. Led the nation with 25 home runs this season, as you mentioned, as a freshman at Arizona State. He's got good opposite field power. He put one not out at Veterans Field in Chatham on opening night, but he put one pretty close to out down there in right field. The wind was blowing out there. He put a good bat on one, and he's a really good hitter. He's going to hit for average, he's going to hit for power, and he's going to do a lot of things well. Spencer Torkelson is a really, really talented baseball player. You mentioned Ken Waldechuk might have a little bit of not a problem, but has a tough task ahead of him. A lot of that tough task stems from Spencer Torkelson. Another guy I'm looking for is Tristan English from Georgia Tech. He had a pretty good game the first time we saw Chatham on opening night. So there's a lot of talent throughout this entire Chatham lineup, and some guys we haven't even seen yet because they either weren't here or weren't in the lineup on opening night. There is a lot to worry about with this Chatham Anglers team. Should be a really good game tonight.
Certainly a lot of talent on either team going at it tonight. We're about ready to pack things up here, but first we got to do our keys to the game. Henrique, what have you?
So I talked about it a little bit in the previous segment before we shot to break, but I think it's going to be that the Gatemen get out ahead with a lead early. They've had to battle from behind in the last 4 games in a row, and they've only won 2 of them, and that's no coincidence. So I think it's going to be about jumping on Kyle Hurt early, jumping on good pitches, but at the same time being patient in the at-bats. Like I said, Hurt was a high walk guy, high ERA guy, not a very high strikeout guy. So he leaves them in the zone. It's going to be about the Gatemen capitalizing on those, putting together good at-bats. Isaac Collins back in the lineup should help out some. Getting Skylar Hunter at the bottom of the lineup should give a little more speed throughout. And an off day should help as well. But I think if the Gatemen can jump out to an early lead, they'll be in good shape. Get into that Chatham bullpen early. Otherwise, if the Gatemen find themselves playing from behind today again, I think this Chatham lineup is about the last one that'll be willing to give the Gatemen some breathing room. They're pretty relentless.
JD, what do the Gatemen have to do to extend the league's best record?
Well, we talked about Lael Lockhart. We talked about Jeremy Idens. I think that the new guys have to gel into this lineup. They've only been here a couple of days, maybe not even a day in the case of Jeremy Idens. He got in late last night, so he's still kind of getting used to the camp, getting used to the feel of the team. They haven't hit with wood bats yet, so this is going to be their first day today, hitting with wooden bats aside from BP earlier in the afternoon. But, I want to see them play well, pretty much. I just want to see this team come together as a unit. They've gelled well at the beginning of the season, but, you've got 2 new guys in there. Things are going to be a little bit different. You got Idens playing right field, so it's going to be different having him in the field. You won't have Lockhart out there, but I want to see these guys gel. I want to see these guys play as a team as much as they possibly can with the little amount of, I don't want to say little amount of teamwork, but the little amount of time they've had together. It's going to be important for them to gel. It's going to be important for them to play well, and I just want to see some cohesion from this Gatemen team. And we might be glimpsing into the future a little bit here with Lael Lockhart and Jeremy Idens, with a bunch of guys heading to Team USA in just a couple of days. So we could be seeing the future of this Gatemen lineup, and I want to see them get off to a good start today and start the Cape League season well for themselves.
All right, that's going to do it for us here down on the field. For JD Raucci and Henrique DaMour, I'm Cameron Stuart. Thank you for watching the Gatemen pregame show. We've got the top 2 teams in the Cape League. The Anglers will come in to play your Wareham Gatemen. It's Gatemen Baseball Network coming up next.